He promised he'd be careful. Then did this. He looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Don't worry, I'll be careful." I wanted to believe him. He had that confident smile, the kind that makes you think nothing can go wrong. We'd been through so much together, ups, downs, all of it, but something about that night felt off. Maybe it was the way he rushed out the door, or how his phone kept buzzing with messages he didn't want to talk about. I should have said more. I should have stopped him. But I didn't. This story isn't about just one bad decision. It's about how quickly everything can change when someone you trust throws caution to the wind. He wasn't reckless by nature, not the type to ignore warnings. In fact, he was the careful one. The planner. The let me double-check guy. That's what makes what happened next so hard to understand. And so hard to forget. It started out like a normal evening. The plan was simple: meet a friend, be back in an hour. Nothing wild, nothing risky. At least, that's what he told me. But behind that casual tone was something else. A detail he left out. A decision he had already made before he even stepped outside. What he didn't know was that one small choice would set off a chain of events none of us could take back. And once the truth came out, everything changed for him, for me, for everyone involved. So when someone promises they'll be careful, what does that really mean? Is it just words to keep us calm? Or do we ever truly know what people are walking into when they say, "Trust me"? I didn't realize it at the time, but that night was the last time things would ever feel normal.
It all started a few weeks before that night.
Things had been weird with him lately, not in a loud or obvious way, but in the little things. He'd started taking calls in another room, replying with quick, "I'll tell you later," and brushing off questions with that same half-smile he used when he was hiding something. I didn't want to push. We all go through phases, right? Stress, work, stuff you don't feel like talking about. But deep down, I knew something was off. He had a close friend, Arjun, someone he hadn't seen in a while. They used to be tight, but after falling out last year, they kind of drifted. So when he mentioned that Arjun had reached out again, I was surprised. "He says he wants to talk," he told me. "Clear the air, you know?" That's when he said it, the line that keeps playing in my head even now. "I'll be careful." That night, he left wearing his old black hoodie, the one he always wore when he wanted to feel invisible. He didn't take the car. Said he'd walk. Said it was just a quick meet-up near the corner cafe. I watched him go from the window. He didn't even look back. Half an hour passed. Then an hour. Then 2. I texted him once, then again. No reply. I tried calling. No answer. Still, I told myself he must have just lost track of time. Maybe he and Arjun were talking things out. Maybe things got emotional. But as more time passed, my gut started to twist. There was something else, too. That morning, before he even mentioned meeting Arjun, I'd seen a notification flash on his phone. A name I didn't recognize. And a message. "Tonight? You sure?" He swiped it away so fast I barely caught it. I didn't say anything, but it stuck with me. The cafe he mentioned? It closes by 10. By midnight, the streets were quiet. I went out just to look. No sign of him. No calls, no updates, just silence. The worst part? The next morning, I got a message from an unknown number. Just 4 words. "You should have stopped him." That's when everything really started to unravel. I stared at that message for a long time. You should have stopped him. My heart was racing, and my fingers felt cold as I held the phone.
Who sent it?
How did they know? I read it over and over, hoping it would somehow make more sense the second or third time. But it didn't. It just felt like a warning or a blame. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept going back to every little sign I had ignored. The way he avoided talking about Arjun. That message from the unknown name. The sudden decision to meet up at night. And now this silence from him and a strange message that made my skin crawl. I tried calling his number again. Still switched off. The next day, I went to the cafe he mentioned, hoping someone might have seen him. The barista remembered 2 guys sitting outside around 9:30, but she wasn't sure if one of them was him.
"They were arguing," she said.
Not loudly, but it looked serious. That confirmed it for me. He did meet Arjun. But what happened after that? I decided to reach out to Arjun myself. I hadn't spoken to him in over a year, not since the two of them had that falling out over something neither ever explained. When I called, it rang just once before going to voicemail. I left a message, trying to sound calm. But part of me was furious. If Arjun knew something, why hadn't he called? Later that evening, someone slipped an envelope under my door. No name, no note, just a photo inside. It was grainy, like from a CCTV camera, but I could tell it was him. He was standing in a narrow alleyway, talking to someone whose back was turned to the camera. It wasn't Arjun. Who was the other person? Why was he even in that alley? That spot wasn't near the cafe. I recognized the wall behind them. It was near the old warehouse, the one that's been shut down for years. There's no reason anyone should be there, especially not that late. Nothing was making sense, and the more I tried to piece it together, the more questions I had. Why was he hiding things? Who sent the message? And what really happened after he promised he'd be careful, but didn't come back? By the third day, something in me shifted. The fear turned into a kind of urgency I couldn't ignore. I wasn't just waiting anymore, I was searching. I retraced every step he could have taken that night, checked the alley from the photo, even asked around quietly to the shopkeepers nearby. Most people hadn't seen anything.
A few didn't want to talk.
One old man sitting outside his pawn stall said he saw a dark car parked by the warehouse late that night, lights off, engine running. He couldn't see who was inside. Didn't look right, he said. Felt like trouble. I went home that evening with more questions than answers, but something was bothering me about that alley photo. I stared at it for hours, zooming in, looking at every corner of it. That's when I noticed a tiny detail, a symbol spray painted on the wall. A circle with a line through it. It looked familiar, and after some digging through old photos on his phone, I found the same symbol in one of his screenshots, something he had sent to Arjun months ago with the caption, "Found this again." Weird, right? Why was this symbol showing up now? I couldn't shake the feeling that Arjun knew more than he was letting on. And finally, he called back. His voice was shaky, like he wasn't sure if he should even be talking to me. He kept saying things like, "I didn't think it would go this far," and I tried to warn him. When I asked what he meant, he went quiet. Then he said, "You need to stop looking. Just leave it alone." And hung up. That only made me more determined. I decided to go back to the warehouse. I waited until night, when the streets were quiet again. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Something in me knew I had to see it for myself. The place looked abandoned from the outside, but up close, you could tell it had been used recently. There were faint tire marks in the dirt, footprints that hadn't washed away in the rain. I circled around the back and found a side door that was slightly open. My heart was pounding, but I pushed it open slowly. The air inside was damp and cold. Broken crates, rusted metal, and a strange humming noise coming from somewhere deeper in. I stepped in 1 foot at a time, trying not to make a sound. My phone had no signal, of course. Just my flashlight and the echo of my own breath. Then I heard it, a voice. Not clear, just a whisper. My name. I froze. Someone else was inside. I followed the sound, past a broken staircase, into what looked like an old storage room. The door was cracked open, and there was light coming from under it. My hand shook as I reached for the handle. I didn't know what I'd find on the other side, but I knew it was the moment everything would either fall into place or fall apart. And just as I turned the knob, the light went out. The light went out, and I froze in place, barely breathing. My fingers were still on the cold metal doorknob, and all I could hear was silence. Heavy, loaded silence. Then footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Not rushing, not panicked, like whoever it was already knew I was there. I backed up slowly, trying not to make a sound. But then the door creaked open on its own. Just a few inches. The room behind it was pitch black. No voice. No movement. Just that deep, eerie silence again. I raised my flashlight and pointed it into the room, and that's when I saw it. Not him. Not Arjun. Not even a person. It was a board on the wall covered in photos, notes, red string connecting names and places. It looked like something from a detective show. But in the center of it all was a photo of him. My friend, crossed out with a thick red marker, and below it, written in block letters, broke the code. Before I could process what that meant, I heard something else behind me this time. A phone ringing. Not mine. A soft ringtone coming from somewhere deeper in the building. I hesitated, then followed it, flashlight trembling in my hand. The sound led me to another room, this one lined with filing cabinets and broken equipment. On a dusty desk sat a phone, screen glowing. A name I hadn't seen before, Ravi unknown. I let it ring, then it stopped. And immediately after, a message popped up on the screen. You're already too late. He made his choice. I had no idea who Ravi was, but something about the name clicked. I searched my friend's email, something I hadn't thought to check before, and found an old thread from months ago. Subject: The Circle. Inside were a few cryptic messages. Talk of a deal, someone watching him, and a final message from Ravi that said, once you're in, there's no walking away. This wasn't just about a fight with Arjun. It was something bigger. Something dangerous. Something he never told me about. The circle symbol suddenly made more sense. It wasn't random graffiti. It was a mark. A sign. Of a group or a network he had gotten involved with, thinking he could handle it. But whatever it was now clear. He was in deeper than he ever admitted. Just then, the sound of footsteps returned, closer this time. I ducked behind a broken cabinet, holding my breath as the door creaked open again. A man stepped in. Not Arjun. Not Ravi. Someone I'd never seen before. He moved with purpose, scanning the room like he knew exactly what he was looking for. I stayed hidden, heart pounding so loud I was sure he'd hear it. He pulled out a phone, made a call, and said just one sentence. She's here. What do you want me to do? That's when I realized I wasn't just looking for answers anymore. I was now part of the thing he tried to protect me from. I held my breath as the man stood just a few feet away. He was silent, waiting, like someone following orders. My legs were ready to run, but something told me to stay still. Then his phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen, let out a low sigh, and walked out without saying a word. The moment he disappeared, I didn't wait. I grabbed the phone he left behind on the desk and ran. Outside, the street was empty. I didn't stop running until I got back to my apartment. My hands were shaking, but I powered on the phone. It was locked, but there were recent messages visible on the screen preview. One of them said, "She found the board. Shut it down before she talks to him." And another, "Too late. He's already gone."
Gone?
I didn't want to believe it, but part of me had been preparing for the worst. But just as the panic started to set in, the phone buzzed again. A new message came in. From a contact named Unknown. Don't believe them. Meet me where it all started. I knew exactly where that was. The old railway platform where he and I used to go years ago when we wanted to get away from everything. It was our place. I didn't think, I just went. When I got there, I was out of breath and full of questions. And then, from the shadows, he stepped out.
Alive.
Tired, bruised, but standing. He looked at me with a strange calm. "I tried to disappear," he said. "Try to keep you out of it. But they never planned on letting me go." He explained everything. How he got pulled into a secret group, the Circle, by accident through Arjun. They used people like him to do their dirty work, track others, pass messages.
He thought he could walk away.
He was wrong. Before I could say anything more, a low whistle echoed through the platform. He froze.
"They followed you," he said quietly. We turned.
But instead of someone from the Circle, it was Arjun. Holding a phone. Smiling. "Looks like you let her write to me," he said. That's when I understood. He was never trying to help him, he was leading him back. For a long moment, none of us moved. The air felt heavy, like the space between a storm and a lightning strike. My friend looked between me and Arjun, his jaw clenched, as if the final piece had just fallen into place. Arjun stepped closer, casually, like this was just another night for him. "You really thought they'd let you disappear?" he said. "You broke the code. You ran. You made it worse for all of us." I finally found my voice. "Why are you doing this?" He looked at me, a sad smile in his eyes. Because someone always has to pay. And it wasn't going to be me. Everything made sense now. The texts, the envelope, the threats. Arjun wasn't just part of the circle. He was working both sides, pretending to fix things while quietly tightening the trap. He had been setting this up from the moment he reached out again. But what he didn't plan for was that we weren't the same people anymore. My friend had spent months preparing for this moment. And before Arjun could react, he stepped forward, placed something in his hand, and whispered, "This ends with you." It was a recording device, evidence. Everything Arjun had done, every message, every meeting, even the voices from the warehouse, were all on it. Backups had already been sent. If anything happened to either of us, the files would go public. For the first time, Arjun looked unsure. He backed away, then vanished into the shadows, just like he always did when things didn't go his way. We stood there, the sound of distant trains passing by, letting the quiet settle in. In the end, we walked away, not the same, but together. He kept his promise, in his own way. Maybe not careful in the way I expected, but careful enough to leave a way out. Careful enough to come back. Some people think stories like this are just fiction, mystery, danger, secret groups, betrayal. But the truth is, real life is often more complicated than anything we could make up. And sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones hiding the darkest parts of the story. He came back. But not everyone does. And that's what stays with you.